Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Public Forum. I'll remind all present that mobile phones must be switched off before the meeting and that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed. Please be aware we have a 5-minute time limit of speeches in the chamber. You will hear a bell ring at 4 minutes and then another at 5 minutes. If you could please wrap up your speech in that last minute, that would be great. We'll be pretty strict today because we have quite a few speakers. I will also remind speakers that councillors may ask you a question, however, you are under no obligation to answer, and speakers are not to ask any questions of councillors. I'll also remind speakers they have a 1-minute time limit in reply to questions from councillors if any are asked. And lastly, please stick to the topic of your item in the agenda so I don't have to bump you back on course. First up, we have Robert Rogers of 1 Berrima is speaking for the recommendation in item 9.3, State Significant Development Application. Far away.
Thank you very much. First up, let's be candid. From the perspective of the village life in the town of Berrima, for many decades the jail has been a passive facade of the past on the old highway. A photo opportunity that is not integrated into the village life in any way other than as an aesthetic. In the future we seek is where the jail is fully integrated into our village life and is accessible internally for visitors and residents, and unlike its history of being closed to only those who are incarcerated in it. It's been abused, it's been burnt, it's been rebuilt several times, and through these various rebuilds, rubbish, including asbestos and lead, has been dumped on the western perimeter, and this spoil has been there for many decades. The curtilage is overgrown, and the walls are in need of ongoing maintenance, which is not cheap. From the community perspective, it is at present a stone-walled facade in the heart of our village. The future will be different, and we're positive about that. Our group, 1 Berrima, has focused with an open mind on the long-term sustainment of the jail through collaboration and consultation. We've engaged with representatives from state planning, the Shire, local community and Blue Sox itself, and we've avoided any assumptions or hysterics and stuck with the facts. We're working towards a jail that externally continues to represent the history of our village, but which has an accessible internal compound which is vibrant and attractive to residents and visitors, and which is integrated into village life. We don't need any more museums, we've got a couple already. To sustain this goal will require money to properly maintain structures and clean out the current spoil and overgrown areas. State government clearly recognised this and has sold the facility to Blue Sox. As the State of New South Wales has realised, the future of Berrima Jail is only assured if its owners, regardless of who that is, has a viable and sustainable business model to fund the necessary works to maintain its heritage and its environmental compliance requirements over time. As seen elsewhere in Australia, any community-based solutions have often required ongoing government grants and council levies to sustain the facilities. Where the state, the council, community or the developer, it is in everybody's interest for the historical value of the jail to be retained. There is no doubt in that. Hence, 1 Berrima is confident that heritage and environmental directions of state will be compelled and complied with. Arguably, the heritage value of the site is the most important attraction of it to the prospective developer. However, the importance of the idea of history doesn't mean an absolutist position of no change to its structure or nature. Historically, environmentally sympathetic design is of course necessary, but so too that design needs to take account for long-term sustainability and viability. Hence, 1 Berrima has supported construction of hotel accommodation outside the walls from project inception. This allows the inside to remain accessible to residents and the public, but would still encourage the long-term viability for the developer to ensure appropriate long-term maintenance of the broader jail structure. Of course, detail in design will require continuing collaboration and positive consultation. 1 Berrima believes that a reduction in the height of the southern hotel block adjacent to the landscape car park is necessary to soften its aspect. We also note that the nature of the hotel construction will be shaped by state design requirements and in accordance with the Borough Charter. 1 Berrima notes the Borough Charter has successfully guided integrations of modern build styles in many rural and historic settings, for example, Bundanon down on the south coast. Our jail is another such opportunity for that. The quiet majority in Berrima, which comprises old and new Berrima, support adaptive reuse to raise the profile of our community and region, to attract visitors to a vibrant village, to generate work for local people, to provide opportunity for our youth and support our already excellent businesses to thrive and attract further investment. With that latter point in mind, 1 Berrima believes the proposed opening in the front wall will create a relaxed alfresco environment on the main street and will not detract from the perception of the front entrance. Various drawings have made it clear that this opening will be sympathetically executed with proposed landscaping options shaping that aspect. We note the developer has indicated that all blocks removed will be retained and identified for future refurbishment options, and we also note that a hole is required as a compliance requirement by state. The councillors should note that the majority of residents in Berrima are relatively ambivalent about this issue and feel an adaptive reuse of development is inevitable and necessary for the long-term health and viability of our village. Much has been made of the view of tourists visiting the village who have been given only one very negative perspective of the development, and therefore it's not surprising that many locals are frustrated by the way these visitors have been cajoled into signing petitions and being mobilised by influencers. There is also a very small number of directly affected locals, and they have the right to voice their opinion, which we fully support. But One Berrima believes that a successful development will build an improved lived environment for the whole village and bring renewed interest in its properties and businesses. One Berrima is ambivalent about the need for an IPC as it is part of an established process, and if warranted by true, fact-based and informed local objections, it should proceed. But we do not support whipping up any sort of misinformation or assumption to create that kind of effect. We don't live with some romantic idea of history that might be considered fleetingly once a year, if at all. We live with a jail that is part of our village aesthetic, but not really integrated into our village life other than as a photographic facade on the old highway. The jail is and will continue to be part of our daily village life, but we want more than a facade. Now we want the doors open and to welcome a vibrant addition to our local lifestyles. We want a jail precinct that our grandchildren's children can walk into and sense the walls from the inside. We want them to be able to see its historic frontage and convict stonework, but most importantly, we want them to understand the jail as an active component of an historically important, integrated and vibrant tourist village. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Smith.
Thank you very much. Robert, really interested in the point you made about the hole in the wall being required by state for compliance. That's the first time I've heard that. Can you elaborate?
Yes, I can. In our conversations with Blue Sox, we've actually asked that question about, is there any compulsion on you to do that? And the answer is yes, there is a compulsion for a 4-metre wide entry and exit for the purposes of safety. Where it has to go, of course, that's a design decision. Absolutely, and we understand that. The fact that the consideration is to do it at the front was to try and contribute to the al fresco perspective of the entertainment-centric, the small area we have there in Berrima. That was it. So,
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Moylan.
Thank you, sir, for coming along today and contributing to the debate in your community. You listed some of the concerns that One Berrima have. Are all of One Berrima's concerns listed in the conditions that council have put forward?
Yes, I understand that the concerns that we have already been identified as some of the things that need to be looked at. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Megan Moore of One Berrima is speaking for the recommendation in item 9.3, State Significant Development Application.
Right, thank you. Well, let me begin by making one thing absolutely clear. The proposed redevelopment of Berrima Jail is a completely different conversation from our past battles with Hume Coal or the ongoing fight with Plasrefine Ripoli. Those campaigns were or are about stopping new and inappropriately zoned developments, projects that pose serious risks to our community's health and environment. Berrima Jail is not that story. It is already part of our landscape, our history and our identity. Now that it's no longer needed for corrective services, the government has sold the property with a clear expectation that the new owners create an adaptive reuse plan, and that is exactly what they've done. But here's the real distinction. Many residents across the Southern Highlands see this adaptive reuse as a positive step forward. They're looking ahead to a reinvigorated jail, one that brings opportunity and energy back into Berrima, a vibrant hub that honours the past while contributing to the future. I've lived in Berrima for 24 years, and my husband, who actually grew up in Berrima, and I chose to move back to this village to raise our family. All our kids attended Berrima Public School, and we have loved being involved in the life of this town. Our 3 kids all had their first weekend jobs in Berrima, working in retail, making coffee and washing dishes in the local cafes and restaurants. They could walk to work because our village businesses created those opportunities for them. This is why I'm genuinely excited about the potential of a hotel and conference centre at the Berrima Jail site. With more young families choosing to make the Southern Highlands home, we need more pathways for our kids to work locally. This development offers exactly that, varied employment within a hotel precinct and in walking distance for many Berrima kids. Destination Southern Highlands promotes our region for its lush landscapes, exceptional food and wine, and charming villages. The Berrima Jail project aligns perfectly with this vision, attracting not only visitors, but also high-value conference and events market. Our location between Sydney and Canberra positions us ideally for corporate retreats, conventions, and in-house conferences. A boutique hotel on such a distinctive historic site would quickly establish itself as a premier venue within the region. More visitors staying in Berrima means more vibrancy for our community. It means stronger support for our existing retailers, cafes and restaurants. Weddings alone bring enormous life into the town. You can tell it's wedding weekend just by walking into the pub on a Friday afternoon. This development would build on that momentum. The additional parking lot proposed is a bonus for our town. Anyone who has tried to drive through Berrima on a market day Sunday knows exactly what I mean. Cars double park, pedestrians wandering across the street, and a main street that just isn't built for the number of visitors that can come through. The hotel's parking area would ease pressure for both visitors and locals. It genuinely saddens me to imagine this historic building site sitting empty for even more years. Right now, visitors who come to Berrima can only admire the jail from the outside. What an incredible opportunity we have to make this building accessible to all, allowing people to walk through, appreciate its architecture and understand its history. As a teacher at the local school, I can already see the benefits this redevelopment would bring. As we don't have a school hall, the conference spaces could potentially be used for our school events. Our students, who already get to walk their history lessons through the village, would now have access to another incredible piece of living history. As a Berrima resident, I'm frustrated by the anti-development narrative some groups are pushing. This idea that we're in some fight to save the jail is simply untrue. These same groups have spoken of their desire for the jail to be developed into a museum. Our town already has a fabulous museum, as well as Harper's Mansion and the courthouse, and all of them rely on volunteers to help keep the doors open. At the school, I see how hard it is to find volunteers. People are stretched, working longer hours, and simply don't have the time they did. Let's not burden the next generation with yet another volunteer-run institution. If the developer needs to build beyond the back jail wall to make the project commercially viable, I see no issue with that. The proposed design includes extensive landscaping and is far more attractive than the print shop and ugly outbuildings that have existed at the rear of the jail for many years. There's been a lot of discussion about the proposal to create an opening in the front jail wall. I support this design choice and think it's actually quite symbolic. A jail built to shut people out and in becomes a place that welcomes the community in. That is what adaptive reuse should look like. Let's stop letting fear drive the conversation and let's choose progress. This development doesn't take anything away from Berrima, it adds to it. It's a modern, thoughtful development that preserves the jail and brings it back to life. It respects history, creates jobs and learning opportunities for our wider Southern Highlands community, and that's exactly what we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Oh, Councillor Duffy.
I just want to say, it's not a question. Thank you for coming along and giving that perspective. It's really appreciated.
Thank you. Next we have Philip Martin of Berrima Residents Association is speaking against the recommendation in item 9.3, State Significant Development.
Thank you for this opportunity to address Council, senior officers and the community members here today. You know who I am, Philip Martin, and I represent the Berrima Residents Association. The BRA is an incorporated association with around 80 current financial members and a history of over 40 years representing the interests of the residents of Berrima, particularly in relation to the protection of the heritage values of this Georgian village. The redevelopment of the Berrima Jail is fully supported by our members, as long as it is carried out in a manner that fully protects its heritage and the environmental values for the future. We do not believe that this application lodged by Blue Sox Group achieves this goal. We note the Council is not the consent authority for this application, as the application has been lodged as a state significant development with the State Planning Department, and therefore Council has a much reduced role, effectively only as one of the many voices able to make submissions on the application to the Planning Department. The BRA welcomes Council's thorough analysis of the proposal along with the documents that accompany the EIS submitted, and we agree with many of the concerns expressed in Council's Appendix 9.3.1, which is attached to the agenda. that Council will consider today. However, we believe that by accepting the officer's recommendation point 2, that Council provides in principle support for the proposal subject to the key conditions as outlined in the executive summary of the submission, Council will give the impression to the community at large that the application as submitted could reasonably be approved by the consent authority with only a few tweaks around the edges. We submit that Council's submission amounts to an objection to the proposal and not in principle support. In order to ensure the development proposal submission properly reflects the extent and seriousness of the objections raised in Council's report, we request that Council amend point 2 of the officer's recommendation to read in full that Council endorse the key conditions outlined in the executive summary of the submission, that is deleted, and an additional point 3, that Council request that the EIS be referred to the Independent Planning Panel for assessment. Assessment by the Independent Planning Panel, rather than just the Planning Department, ensures that a more thorough and independent appraisal of the development proposal as a whole can be carried out, with enhanced opportunity for community input and consultation, ensuring also that there can be confidence and public appreciation that the assessment process is thorough, complete and reliable. The BRA will be submitting its own detailed objection to this development proposal, utilising the talents and experience of its members, associates and technical experts where necessary. A major concern of BRA members is the complete lack of analysis in the EIS documentation of the wider effects of constructing such a large project in the small village of Berrima. It is our contention, in the most general terms, that the proposed development is simply too large. The scale of the accommodation aspect proposed necessitates the construction of a large 2- and 3-storey building along the whole of the western boundary of the site, and the construction of a 195-space car park, partly underground, along almost the whole of the southern portion of the site. The western accommodation building completely obliterates any publicly accessible view of the original sandstone western wall, the walls of the jail having the most high-level heritage protection, and the underground car park raises the ground level of the southwestern portion of the site, currently undeveloped, and so alters the current appearance of that southern wall from its elevation on a rock shelf well above natural ground level, which helps to give the jail its castle on the hill aspect when viewed from the south, to a much less significant view over a landscaped car park. The major construction and excavation work also threatens the riverine environment along the Wingecarribee River, including disturbance of the abundant wildlife, both by heavy construction activities, then the presence of hotel patrons and staff, effectively overlooking the riverfront, where currently the only human activity is the occasional walker along the Lambies Well track and kayakers on the river itself. The use of the reception facilities proposed will give rise to local noise and light pollution, not properly assessed in the EIS documents, again, a consequence of the scale of the proposal. Proper consideration has not been given to traffic implications either. Berrima is a small, quiet village, other than when on some busy weekends traffic slows to a crawl. Traffic generated initially by construction and then by normal daily operations will multiply the existing deficiencies in local traffic management and cause serious access and safety problems for locals and visitors alike. Australia generally, New South Wales in particular, has very few remaining buildings or settlements dating back to colonial times. Berrima stands out as by far the best example of colonial area town planning, heritage-listed penal, judicial and buildings and other buildings in a low-key, casual environment within easy reach of Sydney. There is no need to spoil this amazing place for the sake of introducing large, high-end tourist facility with all its problems, as referred to in Council's own report, when a smaller, more community-oriented and scaled redevelopment would be so much more appropriate and would receive community support. To this end, we request that you amend your draft resolution as detailed above. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Jenny Hunter of Berrima Heritage Matters is speaking against the recommendation in item 9.3, State Significant Development Application.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to councillors on this once-in-a-century change to Berrima Jail. The last big change was in 1949 following the fire which damaged the 1839 cells. I'm speaking on behalf of Berrima Heritage Matters, a group of volunteers which formed following 2 community meetings last year. We support adaptive reuse, but within the jail walls. That is, no new construction outside the jail walls. We applaud the draft submission, which details a robust list of many problems with the proposal, and we are therefore disappointed that the draft motion and executive summary don't align with this by recommending in principle approval. We urge councillors to amend the motion and executive summary and to object to the proposal. We support the redevelopment of the jail, but the proposal does not respect the heritage values of the jail, its curtilage or the village, and is disproportionate to the village. We believe it would change the village for the worst forever. Now I'd like to talk about the research Berrimah Heritage Matters has conducted over the past 10 months on who Berrimah's visitors are and why they come to Berrimah. For those not familiar, we operate from a pop-up shop on the Old Hume Highway next to the general store in Berrimah. We've welcomed 1,600 people over the past 10 months. Of those 1,600, 7 people have been positive about the Blue Socks proposal. The remainder have expressed dismay, horror, disappointment and disbelief, plus support for our campaign. I can assure councillors there has been no cajoling, no fear-mongering in our conversations. Over the 10 months, we've talked to Berrimah and Southern Highlands residents, plus visitors including multi-generational families, groups including golf, school reunions, book clubs and weddings, grey nomads, day trippers from Sydney, Canberra and Illawarra, and seniors on bus tours, school students on excursions to Canberra, weekend getaway people, and people visiting relatives. Another important aspect is the backgrounds of Berrimah's visitors, ranging from people on modest fixed incomes, such as pensioners on bus tours, to people, as I shorthand them, with 5-star wallets. Most of the visitors are from the middle of this range. I can say emphatically that the Blue Socks proposal has no appeal to our majority of these 1,600. That's more than 99% of these visitors come to Berrimah for its heritage, history, unique atmosphere and charm. Berrimah won the 2021 Best Australian Small Tourist Town because of its qualities, its existing qualities. An exclusive hotel, function centre, restaurant and wellness centre is not what interests them. Blue Socks seems to believe they can reinvent who visits Berrimah. This mistake has already been made at Taylor's Inn with the Vault and now Citizen Cambridge. Both tried the exclusive wealthy patrons model, including high-end accommodation. One failed and sold, and from all accounts, the second iteration of the model is struggling. Citizen Cambridge is a business which offers, quote, bespoke countryside experience with exclusive luxury events, extraordinary venues and a community of like-minded achievers, unquote. The building, Taylor's Inn, is now on the market. While Blue Socks claim they will deliver community facilities, the evidence in their own documents does not support this. The proposal is commercial. Facilities in the jail would be user pays and at the high end, not community focused. A member of the project team floated a room price of $1,000 per night to a resident. My next point goes to the cooperation afforded to Council by the Planning Department in regard to the sale of the jail and the SSD process. On 15 October 2021, Council wrote to Mrs Tuckerman, member for Goulburn, asking for a master plan to be prepared before any sale took place. This was ignored. 3 days after that, Melinda Pavey announced the sale of the jail freehold by an EOI process. In a formal letter to the Planning Department on 2 April 2024, Lisa Miss Campbell said, quote, Council respectfully seeks an explanation from the department as the short time frames provided are why the SEARS was issued prior to formal input by Council. We lament the extremely short time frames provided by the department on SSD matters. This too, we understand, was ignored. In an informal discussion with the Mayor outside the jail on the recent open day, Jessie told me that Council requested, but had been refused, an extension to the public exhibition period. I'll skip to my last point, which is we urge councillors to amend point 2 of the officer's recommendation along the lines that Council objects to the proposal based on the extensive problems with the project as outlined in the submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Sorry, Jenny?
Questions?
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Jenny. I noticed you said that your group would like no new construction outside the jail walls. However, correct me if I'm wrong, there are already buildings on the western wall, is that right? And so why the issue with construction outside the walls if it already exists?
At a community meeting last year, in April last year, a question was put to the community about construction outside the jail walls. 80% of people at that meeting put their hand up against no new construction outside the jail walls. That's focused us and as part of our, for want of a better word, mission.
Thank you.
Yeah, against construction, sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Moylan. Sorry, one more, Jen. Councillor Moylan.
Thank you, Ms Hunter, for coming along today and contributing to our community. That meeting that you were referring to, I misheard. That was a community meeting, did you say? And who facilitated that?
It was a community meeting. It was held at the pub. It was facilitated by Duncan McDonald, who's now part of One Berrima. I was assisting him at that meeting, and we put 3 options to that meeting, which was no construction outside the jail walls, some construction, or inside the jail walls. So the meeting voted 80%, no new construction outside the jail walls.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we now have Miles Lockhead of Southern Highlands Water Polo who's speaking against the recommendation in item 9.5, draft business case for multi-purpose indoor sporting facility.
Thank you, Mayor, Councillors, General Manager and Council staff for the opportunity to speak. I present today wearing a few hats as patron, past president and life member of Southern Highlands Water Polo and as an advocate for Mittagong Swimming Club and for the broader Mittagong Sporting Precinct. I'm here to speak to item 9.5, draft business case for multi-purpose indoor sporting facility post-exhibition report. I commend residents and organisations that have taken the time to make submissions on the exhibited plan. Valuable feedback that has obviously been taken into consideration for today's report. Relevant to this report are previous submissions and presentations stemming from the Community and Recreational Facilities Strategy, that's easier said by CRFS, which will come up again, which was adopted in 2023. These are all available on the Southern Highlands Water Polo website if anyone's interested. Item 9.5 to be discussed at today's meeting is intrinsically linked to the previously adopted aquatics plan considered by Council at its 21st of May general meeting this year. To bring us up to date on previous deliberations on the CRFS since the 21st of May aquatics plan report, a rewilding of Mittagong Pool project was added, and that came as an added recommendation to the aquatics plan report on the 21st of May meeting. And it resulted in a public consultation phase which concluded on 19th of October and was designed to inform a master plan for that project. We await a report on that, which will no doubt be forthcoming soon. The implications coming from the CRFS are significant, indeed gargantuan, with more than 80 facilities referenced in the strategy, from which 3 major strategic directions as follows were approved. First one, development of a major regional aquatic facility towards the north of the Shire. 2, provision of a large multi-purpose indoor facility in the northern part of the Shire. And 3, development of destination play spaces in the Shire's 3 major towns. Strategic directions 1 and 2 resulted in plans and business cases being developed and placed on exhibition. Strategic direction 3 is yet to be deliberated. Today's indoor facilities report reflects a significant departure from the CRFS and indoor facilities plan, moving away from proposed co-location with a regional aquatic facility at Mittagong, and as quoted in the report, for further investigation on potential locations across the Shire is recommended. That's on page 25. Similarly, the recommendations adopted on the 21st of May regarding aquatics also depart from the CRFS and the exhibited aquatics plan. Rather than pursuing a new regional aquatic facility in Mittagong, the focus shifted to a renewal of Bowral Pool, with only some regional inclusions quoted in the recommendation. This shift, besides being a departure from the exhibited aquatics plan recommendation, greatly limits opportunities for financial support from state and federal governments, as well as from developer contributions. Given these large changes in direction arising from community feedback and go Bundanoon, and necessary, it is both fair and necessary that some components of the aquatics and indoor facilities plans be revisited with proper and meaningful community input. With developments and submissions received since the CRFS was adopted in 2023, the time has also come to review certain aspects of that strategy. We believe there are two practical opportunities to drive a positive outcome, as outlined in our Mittagong Sporting Precinct letter to Council, which was sent on the 19th of September and received by staff and all councillors. And the first one, broaden the proposed master plan for the Mittagong Pool rewilding so that it includes the entire Mittagong Sporting Precinct. And two, undertake structured, overdue consultation as a priority, bringing relevant stakeholders to the table, including sporting clubs, schools, accessibility groups, local residents, councillors, and our local MPs. It'll be a big meeting. In conclusion, productive conversations have transpired as a result of today's report 9.5. I thank the Mayor, councillors and staff for the continuing dialogue and appreciate the opportunity to speak today. We are on a long journey to address the historic underinvestment and inconsistent decision-making in the Shire's sporting and recreational infrastructure, as guided by the Community and Recreational Facilities Strategy. Throughout this process, we have highlighted the significant barriers and costs associated with implementing the strategy. We are mindful of Council's financial challenges and competing priorities across the Shire. However, we also recognise the tremendous potential that long-term visionary planning offers to deliver infrastructure that will serve our community for decades, improving health, supporting local business and strengthening community life. We look forward to inclusive and effective consultation with councillors, MPs, stakeholders and the wider Highlands sporting and recreation community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you. Next up, we have Paul Barkiki of, apologies, I got that last name wrong, I always do, Moss Vale and District Basketball Association is speaking for the recommendation in item 9.5, draft business case for multi-purpose indoor sporting facility.
Mr Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak on item 9.5, indoor sports facility. My name is Paul Barkiki of Moss Vale and I declare I'm a life member and former director of Moss Vale and District Basketball Association. I was going to bang on about how we thought the SHISH, the Southern Islands Indoor Sports Hub, was a good idea, but I thought I'd let the opinion of others speak for us. The Southern Islands Multi-Purpose Indoor Sports Stadium in Parks Road, Moss Vale, aka the SHISH, is it a good idea? In 2004-05, I personally spoke to the consultant for the report, Leisure Centre Master Planning and Swimming Centres Business Planning Study, and we agreed to change his proposal from 2 to 4 additional courts. In 2015, MP Prue Goward thought it was a good idea and gave Moss Vale Basketball $50,000 to prove it. In Prue Goward's grant, Moss Vale Basketball commissioned the 2016 Otium Feasibility and Facility Concept Design Report, and it supported the idea. The rest of the grant was commissioned 2017 Michael Connell and Associates Economic Impact Report, and it supported the idea. In 2018, the New South Wales Minister of Sport, Stuart Ayres MP, thought it was a good idea and offered $6.5 million to get on with it, provided Wingecarribee Shire Council chipped in. The council's offer wasn't enough and the government withdrew their offer, but still a good idea. In 2019, then Councillor Graham Andrews proposed the upgrade of Lackey Park to a significant regional sporting venue and commissioned the MI Associates Lackey Park Regional Sports Hub Master Plan, including the SHISH. MI Associates thought it was a good idea. In 2020, Lackey Park Regional Master Plan was put on public exhibition and the community thought it was a good idea. Acting on community feedback, the duly elected council thought it was a good idea and endorsed the proposal in 11/11/20 general meeting. Moss Vale Basketball and Council entered into an MOU and both organisations started work on stakeholder meetings. Stakeholders thought it was a good idea. DA studies investing time and money in the project. Moss Vale Basketball pursued stakeholders and community for support. Over 25 letters of support, including federal and state MPs, state and local sporting groups, Indigenous representatives, local police command and disaster action management teams, an associate professor of medicine, community groups and business people. The current council general manager thought it was a good idea when she first came to town. The Shish team has a member with a PhD in sports administration. They all think it's a great idea. The Department of Sport has us on the future needs of sporting infrastructure strategy, and they thought it was a good idea. With a stroke of a pen and a personal opinion, the interim administrator ignored everyone else's opinion, the spending and the hard work, and shelved the project, commissioning another study into the CRFS. The study ignored Moss Vale proposal, Mittagong facilities at Frensham, and public opinion in favour of proposal at Mittagong Sports Ground. Submissions to the public exhibition of the CRF were against Mittagong in favour of Moss Vale proposal, so the community thought it was a good idea. During council election campaign, we consulted all ticketed groups, and most, if not all, thought it was a good idea. Since the now duly elected council were elected, we have consulted most of those, and the majority, if not all, have confirmed their support for the idea. During the 2024 election campaign, 3 campaign candidates expressed their support for the project. Carol Berry, MP, since confirming that support. They think it's a great idea. Since being elected, Wendy Puckerman and Judith Hannon have both shown their ongoing support, and they think it's a great idea. The draft design of the stadium and the vision statement support the council criteria of multi-purpose co-location with Lackey Park and the existing basketball stadium that's currently operating near capacity. Environmentally friendly with low energy consumption, water retention, solar and battery power, secondary income options with office space and community facilities for hire, designed to meet the sporting standards of target user groups, road, bus, rail access, close to Moss Vale CBD Aquatic Centre and private gyms within 20 minutes travel of most of the Shire population, and located in the biggest growth area for the next 15 years. Ownership of the land has been a concern to council, and we have documentation from the Department of Sport and around $1.4 million worth of grants and loans made to the association, spending community money on a private facility to the benefit of the community. In summary, in the opinion of a lot of significant people, it is a good idea. It has significant support from government, community, state and local sporting bodies, 5 studies and 3 public exhibitions. The last duly elected council endorsed the project and commenced work, so it's already in the system. The interim administrator shelved the project but didn't cancel it. We encourage council to move ahead with this project as soon as possible and get a DA in place before the next state election. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor, sorry, Paul, I'll just call you back. Councillor Moylan.
Thank you, sir, for coming along today and contributing. Your persistence is impressive. With the ownership of the property, is that in a trust or do you own it?
Basketball Association owns it, but we're open to long-term lease or sale.
And also, is it 4 courts or 2 courts at the moment?
At the moment, 2 full-size courts with 4 junior courts crossing those.
Russell.
In an ideal world, Paul, to address the trouble of the space of energy that you've had to put into this and yet been delayed by administration, what would be our next steps to support you as a council?
All the MPs have stressed the point that if we don't have a DA, we won't get funding, basically. So I guess to answer your question, the quicker we can move ahead to DA, the closer we are to the state election, the closer we are to getting the funding and getting on with the job.
Thank you. Councillor Russell.
So how could council support you with that?
Quicker we move ahead to make a decision today or next meeting to move ahead into the DA process. That would get us down the path of being ready for the next election. Yeah, I think that's the best way.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all you've done over the years. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have Peter Mitchell of Moss Vale District Basketball Association is speaking for the recommendation item 9.5, draft business case for multi-purpose indoor sporting facility.
Mr Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a Moss Vale District Basketball Association Life member and currently on the association board as a Director of Assets. I speak in favour of the report, however, requesting amendments to the recommendations in the report. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I will not delve into the past and lengthy submissions. These are reproduced in the attachments. There's been a number of submissions over the years. I myself have been involved in this process for around 12 years through a number of councils and the administrator. This current report, whilst welcome, is 5 months after we've met with council staff in June post the aquatic strategy reporting to discuss the future of a multi-purpose indoor facility in the Shire. There has been no significant follow-up contact since that time. In this regard, it would appear, whilst there is an acknowledgement among some staff that the demand is there for additional indoor sports courts and something needs to be done, actions to fulfil that demand, however, seem to be thin on the ground. As we've previously pointed out, indoor sports have not been well catered for in the Shire, and you've inherited an historical oversight with that. And with the growing population, these facilities are long overdue. In the report attachments, councillors can view a list of publicly owned indoor sports facilities at similar New South Wales regional councils that we've compiled, and it shows that Wingecarribee is well behind comparable LGAs. Privately owned facilities, such as the one at Frensham, especially schools, can prevent access when it suits them unless there is a legal guarantee in place, as there is with the swimming pool at Frensham. The recommendations in the report simply note the business case for a multi-purpose indoor sporting facility falls short of doing anything proactive. There is a further commentary around the need to identify the best location within the Shire for a minimum forecourt facility. There have been previous studies to review locations, and any reasonable person with a knowledge of the Shire can pinpoint only 2 valid candidates for a centrally located facility. This is not a difficult process and should not involve another extended review with outsourcing to expensive consultants when the public has clearly and loudly spoken in support of Lackey Park Precinct in the submissions received for the Mittagong proposal. The Moss Vale Basketball Association has already completed a lot of the preliminary work needed and garnered political and community support, and Council itself has previously completed an exhibited master plan and commenced DA studies for the Lackey Park Precinct. The project roadmap provided to Council by their consultants, MI Associates, in 2020 for Lackey Park confirmed a 6-month program to finalise consultation, complete DA documentation and lodge, and to develop funding submissions. Site selection should have been included in this report and is a glaring omission. Unfortunately, it has the appearance of kicking the can down the road. Time spent and timing are critical, as federal and state grants will need to be obtained for the project's capital cost. The statement in the report to continue investigations and report to Council in February should have, at the minimum, be included as part of the report's recommendations, along with other strategic timelines noted, so that there is a clear guidance for Council staff and a strong message to the public. The Council's budget process starts early in 26, and it's essential that the project is included so that planning and studies can be funded and completed throughout next year. The recommendation to include the indoor facility in revised infrastructure list for developer contributions plans is supported and an action for which we have long advocated. This action also seems a little vague on timing. Whilst the wider review is occurring soon, we understand this needs to be actively pursued. Reading between the lines, there seems to be an ongoing resistance to the Lackey Park Precinct proposal, possibly on the land ownership for the Parks Road site, or more broadly, the cost and funding of an indoor facility. The reasons behind this resistance remain behind a very opaque council barrier. The numerous recently completed projects, including Barrel Hall upgrade, the Regional Art Gallery, Bong Bong Common upgrade and Wingecarribee Animal Shelter, all cost many millions of dollars to complete. However, they all started with a confirmed need and a vision, a plan and a decision. This enabled Council to identify funding, present their case and obtain critical grants to assist with the capital cost. The Moss Vale District Basketball Association therefore encourages Council to share our vision and immediately establish a strategic timeline in place with this report and send a strong message to the local community, sports associations and state and federal governments that a multi-purpose indoor sports facility project at Lackey Park Precinct will be happening with a projected completion date of 2029-2030. We're ready to part with Council and assist them in achieving their vision of being the most livable place in New South Wales by 2035. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Just a quick question. You mentioned that you felt that the issues around land ownership and also cost for council was being opaque or something along those lines. Can you explain what you mean there?
The issue of ownership has continually come up. This land was purchased when the initial stadium land was purchased, so it dates back with the stadium over 50 years. The ownership is under the Basketball Association, so it's private land, and there's been a lot of discussion of whether a public funds and a public facility should be on private land. I suppose previous councils have, whilst they developed the PCYC under the Meekong Shire, have pretty much thought, well, we don't have to do anything because the Moss Vale Basketball's provided some indoor courts. However, in our lobbying over the last 20 years, the ownership issue has come up a number of times. As Paul indicated, we're happy to look at leasing. We're also happy to look at ownership, and I can speak for the current board who've raised this issue. We obviously have to put it to members, but the board is all in support of coming to an arrangement with council where we can move forward, and that could involve the sale of the land or some other arrangement with the sale where the development occurs. So it would, in the end, be council's facility on council's land. And it's over 5 lots, so we can do a boundary adjustment and keep the current stadium off that land.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Tim McCartney-Snate of Australian Climbing Association New South Wales is speaking for the recommendation in item 9.13, Open Space Parks and Play Strategy.
That one. Thanks very much for the opportunity to come and speak to you. We appreciate it very much. So I'm here to represent local climbers from Canberra, climbers from Sydney, indeed climbers from all over New South Wales, Australia, and pretty well everywhere else on the planet, Spain, France, United Kingdom, Italy, Germany, and a number of other nationalities whom I've met whilst I've been climbing at Mount Alexandra. Mount Alexandra is unquestionably a gem for the climbing community. Just so that you understand, Australia, well, you probably realise this, we're not well endowed with mountains, nor are we that well endowed with cliffs that are good for climbing. Cliffs that are good for climbing need to be of a certain quality of rock, and they do not occur everywhere. Mount Alexandra is probably the best climbing venue between Sydney and Canberra, and it's a very popular stopping off point for climbers who typically travel around the country doing what they love to do. Unfortunately, in recent times, we've had some issues with cultural heritage, and the council in September put a blanket ban on climbing at Mount Alexandra because of cultural heritage issues. Now, Mount Alexandra is a great cliff, not only because the rock's good for climbing, but it's very accessible. It's got a lot of mid-range to easy climbing routes, which are suitable for beginners and families. It's frequented by school groups who use it for their outdoor activities, clubs, and on weekends, it's typically you'll see 20 or 30 climbers at any given time in fair weather. It's one of the better crags to climb in all sorts of conditions available to climbers from Sydney and Canberra, hence its popularity. About the beginning of this year, we were alerted to, in fact, we found out by our own means that there was a government report in 2009 stating that there was significant artwork, Indigenous artwork at Mount Alexandra. In that report, they recommended that the council deal with the situation because some climbs were going over the artwork and near it, although no damage had occurred. Climbers were not notified until we found out this year that that was the case. As soon as we found out, we contacted the local Indigenous representatives and we had a meeting with them. We'd notified council of this, but we had no further communication, so we just went ahead and dealt with the Indigenous elders. In this case, it was Auntie Sharon Hall, and she was very grateful that we'd approached her and offered our apologies that this had occurred inadvertently. We offered to mitigate the situation by removing the climbs which went over or near the particular artwork, and this occurred at the end of July this year, with the presence of her son, Jim Hall, who was very happy with the result. Just to explain what happens with rock climbing in this sort of situation where it's mostly called sport climbing occurs where there's not a lot of cracks that you can put traditional protection into, so you have to use bolts, as in this photo here. So what we had to do was remove the bolts from where the climbs were potentially impacting the rock. And you can see here, there's a bolt, and that's the same place where it's been removed. So we restored the area to as natural as possible. Here is Jim pointing to the major piece of artwork that was close to where a climb was, depicting Mirragran, the great quoll in the Gundagara creation myth, which obviously is very important for the local Indigenous people and should be of interest to all people in the Shire. But no one knows about it because it wasn't, the public weren't informed. We propose that when the crag gets reopened, that the council works with local climbers to establish a working group to manage the cliff, because any area like this which has a popular visitation will get damaged, and there needs to be mitigation work done. Obviously that's expensive, but not so much if locals get involved. Just to finish off, here's a couple of photos from the Blue Mountain City Council, who have worked for years with climbers to establish tracks that are not only used by climbers now, but also by walkers. Hopefully this will occur at Mount Alexandra in the future. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kent. Sorry, just 2 seconds. Sorry. I'll ask a few questions. Councillor Kent.
Mr McCartney Snake, it's not every day that we're in the presence of someone who was one of the first to climb Mount Everest in Australia. So thanks very much. You're speaking in support of the officer's recommendation. Is it support? In other words, you just want us to move on with what's in the documentation?
Yes, from what I've seen of it, I think it's a progression, and our natural areas need to be made accessible to not just local residents, but obviously people from outside, because it's an important destination for people, especially from Sydney. So yes, I support it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Russell.
Thank you for all of your proactive, efforts in communication. I think it's really important, the work that you've done to build that relationship. Taking on board your comment about a collaborative working group to look after the area, I'm just looking at the draft plan now, and there's a section that says, manage, in regards to Mount Alexandra Reserve, investigate further opportunities in consultation with the community to implement nature-based recreational facilities at the following locations. So do you think that sufficiently covers what you're considering is established around that collaborative working group?
I think it's a start to actually express it for sure, because you have to come up with the concept to begin with, but obviously implementing it will require a lot more work and planning consideration. But I think, wherever natural area management is concerned, involving the community is the first step, because then the community feels they've got ownership. Well, they probably feel that anyway, but to have it officially recognised, it then makes it a lot more successful in the long run, I think.
Thank you. Okay. Next we have Graham Day of 2ST is speaking against the recommendation in item 9.14, Communications Engagement Strategy.
Thank you for listening this afternoon, and I will be speaking against the recommendation as far as the community strategy is concerned, as far as communication. The communication strategy that is before you this afternoon is focused almost completely on digital and social media, and to a certain degree it ignores local media outlets, and you'd refer to those as traditional media. But this traditional media have supported, informed, challenged and entertained the region for over 50 years and over many generations. The Southern Highlands is very unique as far as demographic and very unique in regard to the interaction with people. Many have, that are in the room today have interacted through that traditional media. And I'm speaking for Southern Highlands FM this afternoon, the ABC, 2ST, 94.9 Power FM, and also the Southern Highland News, which are traditional media. Now, I'm suggesting that the draft be deferred until these media outlets have been consulted. The community strategy, I believe, without including these in partnerships is a mistake, and it's been drafted without serious consideration of the Southern Highlands demographics, speed of delivery, and most importantly, trust. Throughout the strategy, there's a constant reference to digital first, with increased focus on social media. Now, social media is the least trusted medium in Australia for communication, for general news and information. In 2025, this year, the Elderman Trust Barometer in Australia said that only 24% of Australians say they trust social media as a news information source. Now, referring to Council's recently released satisfaction survey, which shows 55% do not trust Council, and 48.6% are dissatisfied with Council's communication with the community, I think you need a bit of a hand. And I think you need to partner with those traditional media outlets. Radio and audio channels remain highly valuable for Wingecarribee Shire Council because they directly support the strategy's core goals: clarity, reach, inclusion, timelessness, trust building and place-based communication. Now you might say why? Well, number one, these radio and audio channels reach key demographics that rely on traditional media. The strategy highlights the Shire's older demographic profile, the median age 48, 21% age 70 plus, many of whom prefer non-digital channels or have limited digital access, and that was detailed on page 5 of the report. Radio remains one of the most trusted mediums for these groups and ensures Council meets its principles of digital first, but not only digital, a mix of media. Second point is critical during emergencies and natural disasters, and this is really important. Wingecarribee faces frequent natural disasters events, ranking equal first in New South Wales for disaster declarations over the last 5 years, once again highlighted in the report on page 19. Radio is essential during emergencies because we can pivot. We can pivot and we can move quickly, and that all goes well for helping Council. It reaches people when power or internet access is disrupted. It supports the Council's role to share fast, accurate information, and this aligns with the Council's commitment to timely, clear, inclusive emergency information, which was detailed in 19 and 20 in the report. As a side note, the SES and RFS across Australia view a radio and spare batteries as critical items for an emergency or bushfire survival pack. No one says, grab your laptop. ABC is the national emergency station. People will go there first for their emergency information. 3, it supports inclusive, equitable communication for diverse audiences. The strategy emphasises equity, access and participation, and that's on page 17. People with low digital literacy, poor internet or disabilities can still engage with radio. Commuters and local workers, 79% live and work locally and receive updates during daily travel. Also, it's a strong cut-through in a crowded digital landscape, a trusted, low-noise environment for credible local information, repetition and frequency that comes from that radio, increasing message retention. It's got to be a mix. If you're looking to get out to the public and to turn their perceptions around, I believe that we need to partner together, all those media outlets, and work together. This isn't about you guys. It's not about us. It is about the best for the community. They need that information, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we're all there in traditional media to do it with passion. We can't do it if it's sterilised on a digital format. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Day. You mentioned that council needs to partner with traditional media. Can you explain what you mean by partner? Are you talking about we need to advertise with 2ST, or are you saying, do you mean something else by that?
No, this has got nothing to do with revenue. This has got to do with partnering. If you want to get a message out, as I said, good, bad or ugly, we can do it through those mediums, whether it be the television, whether it be the Southern Highlands Express, whether it be those traditional ways of doing it. The digital format that you're leading towards, and digital first, means it's very sterile. See, what we do as far as media is concerned, we can direct people through to the digital. The digital then directs it back to the traditional. Where you are sitting at the moment is digital. There's no one driving anything to your digital formats. The algorithms, as far as social media is concerned, may not work. There is so much clutter and so many things popping up there that no one sees what you're putting out on video. No one sees what the information is.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kent.
Mr. Day, thanks for coming along. Would you describe yourself as someone who pays pretty close attention to the goings-on at council?
Well, being a former councillor in Shoalhaven and doing it basically for 40-odd plus years, I keep a very close eye on all councils, particularly broadcasting to the coast and the Highlands.
That's what I thought. So back in August, this the draft communications engagement strategy was put on public exhibition for 44 days. I'm looking through the community feedback. I can't see any of the organisations you're representing having formally responded to the draft. Am I correct?
That's because the communication's not working. There were only 3. This is a very important document. There's only 3 that submitted anything. In the world that's out there and not the bubble of council, people wouldn't have even known it's out there. That's where the communication problem lies.
So I put it to you, having asked you whether you are paying close attention to council. You said yes. You would have been aware of the August paper, the agenda and the attachments, and yet you're saying you were unaware and you didn't make a submission. So you're putting us in a pretty unfortunate position that this went to the community. We received communication from people. People took the effort to read it and actually provide written responses, and we come along to the day where the staff have already considered all the community feedback and got a final document, and putting your hand up and saying, oh, I didn't see it, and here I am. It's pretty disappointing.
There's no timeline when something's wrong and will go against this council for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Councillor Russell.
Just to get a better understanding, not being in media myself, what would partnership look like, do you think, to the media organisations?
Well, I hate to be blunt, but the general manager talking to the community on the radio station, and also the mayor, which has done in the past, but talking regularly on the radio station. That's what I'm talking about, partnership. And staff members talking. There seems to be this strange thing, because I criticise people on the air and because I hold you accountable, there seems to be this thing that, you know, I'm the enemy or the radio station's the enemy. We are not. We want to work with you. We want to work with you, and we want to be with you, and we want to get this community in a position where you guys are top of the pops. We can't do it without getting the information, and that goes for all of us, from the Southern Highland News all the way through to WIN Television. We can't do it if you put it in this digital box that you can control.
Thank you. Councillor Russell.
And I'm aware that this is the second iteration of this particular communications policy. Am I right in recollecting that you did make submissions at the public forum for the first one? That's the first question. And the second question is, does 2ST currently receive media, what are they? Media releases from council?
Yes, we do. We get the media releases, but I'll just throw up quickly, because I know time is of the essence for you guys. I'll throw up something quickly, and this is with no disrespect to the mayor whatsoever. This is just a point I'm making. We got a press release the other day about the water situation at Bundanoon. We received that at 20 to 9. I had it on the air saying, people at Bundanoon, Sutton Forest, whatever, you need to restrict your water. That was on at 9:45. I happened to just stumble over Jesse's video in regard to that, and it was it was up. I saw it at 10:30, I think. So the information from the radio station was out there. It takes a while to pivot and takes some time to get out there. But the problem with that was, even though the information was concise, it went for 1:41. We spoke about the reasons for it for 1:26. People have already gone on to the next thing on social media. They didn't get to the water, please restrict your water. The other thing is, which is unfair to the Mayor, is the minute he posts anything on social media, there is an avalanche of people having a shot at him, as they did. And once we have that, we lose the argument about that information, and it turns to criticising you guys. And that's why we've got to be so precise with communication, and that's why we want to partner with you. We are not the enemy.
Thank you. Councillor Molan.
Thank you, Mr. Day, for coming along today. You mentioned natural disasters. Have you or 2ST ever been involved in communicating necessary information about natural disasters?
I've been with the radio station 40 years, and we've covered floods, we've covered fires, we've covered all natural disasters in real time. And in real time is very important. At Bundanoon 4 years ago, we were on with emergency services and reporting. We basically ran for 2 weeks, 24 hours a day reporting on the fires. At Bundanoon, we received information talking on the air with the Rural Fire Brigade, who said everything's fine, there's no problem. 10 minutes later, the Chief Inspector Klepserac rang and said it's come up over the top of the ridge. We need to get the cars down to Bundanoon Oval. We've got to escort them out because the visibility is so low. We were on the air. We got 20 plus cars down there within 5 minutes, and they got them out. Now that's how your radio station works when it's working properly. On the South Coast, which has got a population of 60,000 plus what we have up here, on a Saturday night leading up to that, we were in a situation where the radio station had to be evacuated. All the information was carried from our station on the Highlands. I was on the air that night, so we had to take on all the information along the South Coast and the Southern Highlands in real time, and we delivered it, and not only saved lives, but also kept people informed. You're not going to get that on social media. You're not going to get it digitally.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Molan.
Thank you. And your earlier point about social media, I think, and the time frames for the reader to work their way through it, is your point that radio is more immediate in getting information out than social media? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, somebody, particularly in the demographic of Wingecarribee, they look at social media and they don't know what they're looking at and they don't know whether to believe it. The situation that happened at Warrawing on the coast a couple of days ago, people were receiving posts on Monday still thinking the fire was burning when it had basically been contained on Sunday afternoon, because people are looking at the drama and not looking at the timeline. It was 2 days old. As far as 2ST is concerned, well, here's an example with 2ST and Power FM. We've got 47,000 social media people that are with us on social media, 47,000. I believe Council's got 12,000. Now, we're an entertainment organisation. We're not an information, well, we are an information organisation, but you see what I mean. What I'm saying is there's so many messages going through, it's very difficult to find out what's true and what's not. You hear it on the radio that there's a bushfire starting at Cola Vale, and we have it on the air. Yesterday we had 15 phone calls because they saw smoke. There's a bushfire, it was a burn-off. We delivered that to them. That's how traditional media works, and it's instant, and it can work for the council in collaboration. And that's why I've spoken today, because it's that important.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that concludes committee forum. We'll have a short break. We'll start back at 3.